Hi, Sai and Sai here for Music Radar. Today, well, you've brought along a whole bunch of PreSonus gear as setup here. We're going to talk about all of this.
Yeah, so we partnered up with PreSonus for this video to talk through like this little setup that we've got going on here. So let me give you a bit of background because you might, well, I'm sure you know who PreSonus are. You guys might know who PreSonus are. PreSonus is a US-based company. And there's a few things you might know them for. One thing being Studio One, which is the company's DAW, which I've got running on my Mac here.
Yes.
Which has been around for a good few years now. It's known as a really nice all-rounder DAW, a good alternative. A lot of people really rate it.
Yeah.
And then also PreSonus are quite well known for things like their Eris range, which covers monitors and headphones, and their studio range of interfaces. And a lot of those things are really well known around the kind of budget end of the market. Yeah. Because they've got some nice things that offer really good value in the kind of £100-200 or dollar mark. But that's not what we're talking about today.
No, we've gone high end, right?
Yeah, we're looking at the kind of higher end of some of PreSonus's stuff. So what I've got set up here is like, it's still a compact little setup.
Yeah.
So we've got our interface here, we've got Studio One running on the DAW, like I said, and then we've got our monitors behind us. Before anyone says anything in the comments about like monitor placement, this is just for the video.
Yes, just so you can see them.
I wouldn't actually set up a monitor behind my left shoulder. I'm aware of that.
This is all a bit back to front.
Generally, I would have
benefit.
this stuff facing me in the studio as well.
Quite.
But yeah, anyway, compact little setup we've got going here, and because we're looking at stuff that isn't at the entry level, it's more at the kind of intermediate to small kind of pro setup level. We've got some cool features that can do some really interesting stuff. Yeah, and that is what we're going to look at today.
Okay.
So the core of this setup is this Quantum HD8 interface, and I've got this connected up here to Studio One Pro 7. And these things interact in some quite cool ways, and we're going to come on to that in a little bit. Okay. But then we've got our interface then hooked up to these Eris Pro 6 monitors, which are also from PreSonus. So it's kind of like a compact little setup, which would be great for sort of solo producers, maybe guitarists looking to record stuff, things like that. But because we've got loads of ins and outs here from the HD8, you could also, track a band, have a rack of hardware synths or whatever going into this.
Of course, yeah.
So it's quite a flexible little setup. So let's talk about the Quantum HD8 first. So these Quantum interfaces, they're at the top end of PreSonus's range. So you've got the smaller Quantum HD2. And then you've got this, which is the top level HD8. So the only real differences between those are the amount of ins and outs we've got. Obviously the HD2 comes in at a cheaper price. It's got kind of fewer preamps, fewer ins and outs. Sure. But this is the kind of the big flagship one. So as you can see, we can rack mount this, or we can have it on a desktop like we've got here. And so the HD8 has it's got all the things that we would expect from an interface at this price point. So you can see along the front, we've got a couple of instrument inputs here. We've got 2 headphone outputs. Then around this back panel, we've got another 8 combi inputs, which we can kind of hook up mics or instrument or kind of line inputs there. We've got 10 outputs here, and then if I grab my little adapter here, which comes with it, and we could plug this in at the back here, and that gives us we've got optical connectivity, kind of word clock, ADAT, etc. So we can expand this to a full 26 inputs, 30 outputs.
Okay, yeah.
So it can become the central point of a kind of big studio setup. Sure. So there's some really nice things that go beyond the kind of standard interface things here. So PreSonus described this as having a high performance signal flow throughout it. Okay. So you've got a whole 124 dB of dynamic range, which is pretty massive. Yeah. And so you've also got 8 max HD preamps. Those give you 75 decibels of gain. They're low noise, very transparent, so they're ideal for recording whatever you want to hook up to them. Then you've got some other kind of handy things. So one feature that is really useful on here is auto gain.
Right, great. Yeah.
And so I'm going to demo that very quickly for you now. We've got this guitar hooked up. So I'm going to get you to just play that a bit for me. Okay. I'm going to just turn my Mac round. So auto gain, you can see we can engage it from this front panel here, but there's also a few other places I could go. I could use the Universal Control app, which I've got on my phone here. We can also have a tablet, also get it on desktop. I'm actually going to do this directly from Studio One, which is something we're going to look at more in a little minute. Okay. But what I can do is I can just hit auto gain, and if you can just sort of play as you're going to play, and if you keep going for a minute. So So what this is doing is basically just monitoring. There we go.
Okay.
So that's just monitored what you're playing, and it's basically automatically set the gain to what we need for your style of playing and the level coming from that guitar. So it's really handy for setting up gain staging, particularly if you're using like, you know, a variety of different things. Say we're kind of, you know, got a mic'd up drum kit, we've got some synths, different guitars going through different pedals and things like that. That auto gain just means it takes the hassle out of manually setting all your gains.
Yeah, of course. That's
which is
perfect.
really useful.
Especially if you're on your own as well. It's just running around and doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, because we can do that from the computer, we could do that from an app, we can do that from the front panel of that. It's also, it keeps your hands free and it's not a faff to be, you know, leaning over musicians or whatever if you've got people in the studio. So that's really handy.
Really handy.
So another little thing worth mentioning, so PreSonus a few years ago was brought under the Fender umbrella of brands.
Of course, yeah.
So that means that these quantum interfaces have got a bit of input from Fender, who are obviously one of the biggest brands in the guitar world. You know, you're holding a telly in front of us now.
Of course.
And that means that these instrument inputs have been kind of co-designed with a bit of help from Fender. So there's a few things that make this really nice, particularly for guitarists in the studio.
Yeah.
So probably my favorite feature, I think, actually, of these quantum interfaces is this. So along the front here, you can't see it from that angle, but we've got the instrument inputs, but we've also got these two outputs underneath.
Oh,
and so basically what that means is that we can use the interface for reamping.
So all around the front as well.
That's So reamping basically means you can send a instrument level signal out of your DAW, run it through. So you could run it out to an amp and mic up an amp. You could run it through an amp sim or an amp head, or you could run it through a chain of effects or whatever.
Do whatever you want.
So it means that you can basically kind of send that signal back out, re-record it with some new effects on. So for example, we've got this distortion pedal here, distortion stomp box. So say that I wanted to, I've recorded your clean guitar and then we're like, let's get a distortion tone on this. And we want to reamp it. We can quite simply just take these little patch things, turn it around, make it easier. Got my input coming from the reamping output there. I can take the output back into the input there, and like we're not gonna record this now, but what I can do is I could quite easily in Studio One here, or in whatever DAW we're using, you know, via the control app or via routing as we need to do it. We can set that up, so I can set the outputs to. So the main output, I've got these reamp outputs here. Oh, nice. And then we could just record inputs. So I could either have you know, playing clean and kind of route it through, or we could route straight out of the DAW. And obviously that's great for guitars, because what it means with guitars is that you can record your clean signal and then you can kind of decide on amp tone or an effect chain afterwards, and kind of run it in parallel if you want. But it's also great for, you know, anything else. Like I love reamping. For example, means we could make drums with a plugin, send it out through like something like this, so that we can get kind of physical control, or you could send it out through real kind of analog gear, anything that you can get hands on with. So it's a really nice, cool technique. You could either send things, you know, a plugin straight out your DAW through a guitar amp, mic it up, get a real room reverb, and so you can do that obviously with a lot of DAWs in kind of various ways, but having that as a front panel,
and a really simple option on the mixing
within Studio One. So like having that really convenient way to do it is actually really cool and really fun, and that's one of my favorite things that's going on here.
Great.
So obviously the Quantum HD8 is like the core thing of what we're talking about today. But there's some other cool things worth talking about going on in the software and the monitors, so let's have a little talk about that.
Okay.
So with the Quantum range, with the Quantum HD8 and HD2, you get a nice little bundle of software, and that includes a perpetual license for Studio One Pro 7, which we've got rolling here. So you get access to that DAW and get all the functionality straight out of the box. You also get 12 months of access to PreSonus's Studio One Pro Plus, which is their subscription service, which basically gives you access to all of the things that are available within Studio One. So that's kind of devices, effects, instruments, and also a load of sounds, which will work nicely in whatever kind of genre or style you're working in, which is cool. So there's a lot to get your teeth into. You can use these interfaces as you would expect with any DAW or any bit of software, but there's some nice interaction between these hardware units and Studio One Pro.
Okay.
Which I've kind of already touched on, showing you with the auto gain thing. So, but let's take a little closer look at that. So I've just opened up Studio One Pro here, and this is one of my favorite things about using these two together, is that I can go new and start up a new project. And if I go down in these templates here, you've got this menu here of audio interface templates. So you can see here, we've got, templates of different audio interfaces, particularly one being the Quantum HD8 here. Yeah. I can just hit OK, and that's going to open up this new project here. And so within this project now, I have basically got channels set up already, ready for, you can see you've got mic, instrument, stereo recording, loop back to make use of these reamping things. So it's kind of basically, that's all set up. And obviously I could tweak that and create a custom template for however I tend to use it, if I've got regular synths or things or regular effects chains. But that just makes setting it all up really
nice and handy. It's got all the features you want out of that.
It does. And so, and again, on this console here, as I touched on when I was doing the auto gain, you've got this bit up the top here with these options. And this basically gives us access to the things that we would control on the hardware, either through the front panel or through that universal control app. We don't have to go to those apps. We can just do it right within Studio One. So I've got, phantom power here. I can control the gain levels. I can do auto gain. I can then, put on a pad, add a low cut if I want to. And obviously that also means I can set up all of the routing of the inputs and outputs, etc., etc. So it's really nice and really easy and really flexible.
Yeah, great.
So another cool little thing we can do in Studio One while making use of these interfaces is we can save these channels here. So for example, I've got just loaded on this channel, I've got like my FabFilter Pro Q4, EQ that I like to use on pretty much everything. And what I can do is I can save that track as a channel preset. And that means that it will save not only the plugin chain, but also all the hardware settings. So for example, if I was recording you like before, playing that clean telly, got the auto gain done, say I put an EQ on it, put some reverb, put some distortion on it or whatever that I know works really nicely for your guitar tone. If I record you regularly, I can then just bring that up as a preset with the same gain level, the same audio routing, the same plugins, and that's all there ready to go. Which is really nice and really convenient.
Speedy, like
it. Let's talk quickly about the monitors. So as I said, these monitors that are slightly awkwardly placed behind us, which is not how we would normally set them up, but fine. These are Eris Pro 6.
Yes.
And so these are monitors from PreSonus's range. Again, they're kind of the top end of the Eris range. And we're not going to talk too much about monitors because you can't really hear monitors in a video like this, but there's a few cool things worth mentioning. So one notable thing about these monitors is they use a coaxial design. And what that basically means is that your high and low frequencies are all kind of emanating from a single place.
So it's right on
single
top
spot,
of each other,
kind of in the middle there. And what that does is it kind of creates a slightly more natural listening experience. Which is a kind of unique thing to the Eris range. You've also on the back panel, you've got tuning controls, acoustic tuning controls, and those will kind of help us shape the sound of the monitors to our studio space. Which are really handy.
Wherever you're putting them, got it.
And there's a low cut on the back as well. So what we can do with these, if we want more bass from our setup, we could quite easily add a subwoofer. So PreSonus have an Eris sub that we could use with these.
Pair it with it.
And so we can use that low cut to just roll away the low frequencies, so they're not clashing with what's coming from our sub.
So setup wise, this is a cracking little package. But the bottom line is, how much is this going to set us back?
So I mean, it's as we said, it's a nice, convenient recording package. As we mentioned, we're not at the entry level here, so you're talking a little bit more than you would get for the kind of basic ins and outs. But so this Quantum HD8 goes for £869 in the UK, £869 in the UK. And you can pick up the HD2, Quantum HD2, for £429. And so the main difference between that is that here, obviously, you've got more ins and outs, and you've got the 8 Max HD preamps. The 2, you have 2 Max HD preamps. So it's a smaller, more compact little setup, better for kind of desktop things. And then you've got these 2 monitors, and these are £349 each. So actually, bearing in mind, remember as well that you get the license of Studio One Pro 7 alongside this. So that's included within the price. So bearing in mind that within all of that, you've got a quite nice pro quality setup for well under, you know, the £2,000 mark.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Even if we were to throw in the sub, you know, you're still coming in at under 2,000. So I think actually it represents pretty decent value and a lot of things that will make your life kind of easier and smoother in the studio. So with all the ins and outs here, we say you can hook up a whole rack of synths. We could track a whole band. It's great for kind of, you know, a guitarist recording at home. There's a lot we could do. So for the price, there's a lot to offer there.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Si. Big thanks to PreSonus for sending all this stuff over to us for us to check out. Loving this reamp function.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
neat little feature.
Really, really useful. Let us know what you think about all of that stuff in the comments section. Do head over to PreSonus website to find out more about the range and all the other products they have.
And you can get a free trial of Studio One if you want to head over there as well.
Good idea. Probably put a link in the description just in case.
We'll put all that down there.
Yeah. And while you're sort of faffing around that part of the interface on YouTube, do hit the like and subscribe button as well. And we'll see you soon for some more gear demos and other such fun stuff. So see you soon.
Thanks.